Our next guest is the author of 2 novels, The Barter, a ghost story about motherhood published by Dutton in 2014, and The Completionist, a dystopian mystery set in Chicago, published by Simon & Schuster and named one of the best new books of June 2018 by the Chicago Review of Books. Her short fiction has been published in Tri-Quarterly and the Massachusetts Review, and her essays and humor writing have appeared in Salon, The Daily Beast, and the Huffington Post. As a humor writing and creative writing instructor, she has worked with veterans, maximum security prison inmates, New Yorkers, and most chillingly of all, undergraduates. A native of beautiful Bolingbrook, Illinois, she now lives with her husband and daughter in Brooklyn, and she too has books for sale. Put your hands together for Siobhan Adcock.
Thank you so much, Eden and Andrew. Thank you all for being here. It's such a great pleasure to be in my hometown reading. I wrote a book called The Completionist, which is out now. And it is a family mystery set in a sort of near future version of Chicago, in which, I guess I should say, like dystopian literature, there's this long history of destroying California and setting the fiction in its, among its survivors. And so I destroyed California in this book, but I set it among the survivors who are living in Chicago. So there's a slight difference. It's okay, it's not here yet. So in this sort of near future version of Chicago, there are some things happening. Climate change has caused a lot of the lake to dry up. There's not a lot of water. The water that's there is sort of engineered water that has been trucked out of what's left of California, which is sort of the site of some sort of technological advances that made all this possible. There's a fertility crisis, and in the middle of all this, a young veteran comes home to look for his younger sister who's gone missing. So I say all that just as background for the chunk of it that I'm going to read, which is sort of about some of his experiences in this war zone. And I should say also that part of what inspired this book was that a couple years ago I got my hands on this envelope of letters home from Vietnam that my father wrote to his older sister when he was 19. He was a Marine in Vietnam and sort of served 2 tours of duty there, and shortly after he returned from the war, his younger sister disappeared, and we don't know what happened to her. So some of that went into this, and this section is inspired by some of what I saw in his letters. Also, trigger warning, there's a dog in it. It doesn't end well. Okay. In the first place, they're not supposed to have it, obviously, but they've got a dog. For now. Sort of an older puppy. He's mostly feet and ears. Some guy stole the dog from one of the scavengers' sentry points after they'd hit it. A soft-pawed, tan-colored fellow, a little tiger. Each night, the guys take turns bringing it down into the holes to sleep. It's his squad's turn tonight. The dog's name is Rip. They had another one named Tear, but he got killed yesterday. He was a nice little dog. When a dog is in the hole with the men at night, there's the sound of him in the dark. Wistful puppy sighs, a tail thumping, a tongue at work, soft breaths and laps. Yesterday, after Tear died, that damn idiot Horrocks told him with not a trace of shame that when the puppy curled up next to him in the hole, he felt like he'd been chosen for something good, or because of something good inside of him. And when he started crying, the goddamn dog just lapped the tears off his face and snuggled his nose into him, and it was like being a kid again, like being a good little kid and falling asleep like that. Of course he understood, who wouldn't? If anything, he felt embarrassed for Horrocks that he thought he had to spell it out. Saying it out loud made it feel like a smaller thing than it really was. What the dog did for them didn't need to be left out in the open like that. Almost rack time, and he's been thinking about the dog all day. Looking forward to tonight in the hole with a longing that makes him feel both noble and ridiculous. Rip seems to prefer him, but he's a democratic dog, and over the course of the night he likes to make the rounds. First standing up and elongating from the legs, stretching his paws so that the pads separate, yawning with his whole face, and then shuffling sleepily from one man to another. First him, then his pal Chalky, and then his other buddy Wash, and then Lance Corporal Chuck, who is a known dipshit. Then back to him, usually, or between him and Chalky. Something about how Chalky's feet smell. The dog seems to maybe be a little bit in love with him, or with his feet anyway. Before rack time, they have to disassemble and clean their triggers, which always takes more time than they want it to, because exhaustion, because tricky, because mysterious and humming and slippery, because you can blow yourself up or whoever's sitting next to you pretty easy if you're not paying attention. Lance Corporal Chuck is down the bench. He's supposed to be checking their work, but he's not even halfway done with his own trigger. The lower section is still detached and resting by his feet in the dust, so there's been a general slowdown all the way through the line. No one's working especially fast. And it's making him grit his teeth a little because he wants to grab a bite and then hit the rack. But first, he's hoping to get in a quick game of sock tussle with Rip before lights. Old sock, wholly past wearing, make a knot with the tail, let Rip norfle it and catch it in his small sharp teeth. His idea, his sock. The other guys just about beside themselves with happiness, watching. None of them ever had a dog. No one they know has ever had a dog. Who has a dog anymore? The world out there being what it is, who could bear caring for anything like this? Small, stupid, helpless, hapless, instantly in love with some guy's stinking feet. Who could find it in them? Not even Lance Corporal Chuck, commissioned man, grew up in the kind of house or the kind of place where a kid could have had a dog. So when Horrocks talks about it, says it out loud, what they're all feeling, really the only thing you can feel for the dumb cluck is embarrassment. Bone deep shame for whoever would have to say such a thing. Don't go reading too much, his older sister once told him. You won't like what you find out about how it used to be. Books are full of kids with lawns, kids with dogs, dogs that sometimes even double as babysitters or nonverbal but compassionate friends, kids with hamsters or cats that aren't feral, or even fish, fucking fish, kids with tree houses, kids who take baths at night and bitch and moan about it. As a kid, he had a book, an orange and green book, about a boy who bought a fish in a pet shop, okay? And fed it too much, even though the mysterious gent at the pet shop warned him against it. And the fish just starts growing like a motherfucker, right? Outgrowing the bowl, and then all of the pots, and then the sink, and then the bathtub, and then a basement full of water. And then the funny part, the kid who overfed the fish calls security and the fire department, and they're all, holy shit, a kid overfed a fish. We gotta get down there in the double and deal with this. So the fish gets towed to a pool, and the fish promptly outgrows the pool. And at this point, okay, there are all these people standing around in bathing suits, glaring at this fish that's just taking over their pool, thinking, fuck you, fish. How did that book end? Something with the pet shop guy? Pet shop guys had world-fixing powers, apparently, back when that was a thing a person could be. He can't remember. Because he's within signal range of the base, and because no one but him seems to be in any hurry to finish up with their weapons and get the hell out of the armory hut, he flicks on his wearable, and there's a message from his oldest sister. But she's furious at him about something, blaming him for something he can't even begin to fathom. Fred, I didn't overfeed the fish, it wasn't me. He knows something he's not supposed to? He doesn't know something he's supposed to? Which one is it? He's swimming through the message, trying to understand what she's talking about and feeling more and more confused and worried, because she sounds like she might actually be losing her mind, like she might have flipped some switch and truly gone crazy. And as far as his family goes, they have enough to worry about as it is. He's in a war zone with no way out he can see. Their father is broke, out of work, forced into retirement, living alone, or not alone exactly, since for a few years now, since his sister has moved out and he went to war, their father has lived with one of the terrifying schizophrenic cats you can pluck up off the streets in the new cities, if you're brave enough, or crazy enough, or lonely enough to live with one. And their sister, the nice one, the sweet one, the one who was supposed to be a nurse and then changed her mind because she wanted to save the world, has been working herself to death and no one hears from her anymore. And this, it seems, is what this message is about. She's gone? She's where? He's supposed to know. Some dark hole back home has opened up and swallowed her, and his older sister is shouting down into it as hard as she can, thinking he's down there too. He looks up, troubled, not seeing much, but it's just in time for him to see something happen that can only end one way. He might be the only person to see it. And in the chaos and shrieking and hot gush that follows, he will do his best to forget it. The dog, trotting in, sniffing the lower section of Lance Corporal Chuck's trigger, putting out a moist, curious tongue for a taste, a wet lick.